Hello and welcome to Beacon of Speech. What is Beacon of Speech? We're selling freedom of speech to everyone. Who are we? I'm Fred Hunt, and across the table from me is Ted Coley. Hello, Ted Coley.
Hi, Fred Hunt.
How are you today?
All right, how you doing?
Oh, we're pretending like we're just seeing each other for the first time, but we just got out of a corporate meeting with our corporate overlords, and so my mind is a little melted, and then you had... After the meeting with the corporate overlords, you had another meeting, correct?
Well, like an informal one.
An informal meeting. Now, I should not joke around about the meeting because the guy whose name begins with K, I don't want to say it on the webcast, he seems like a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like him, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that bothers me is when he talks, it's like he's talking another language. He's like talking... advanced level economics or business, and I have to tune my brain into that, and then I have to decompress from that. But like I said, he seems like a good guy. He's a sharp guy.
Yep.
You know, he deserves where he's at. And whoever they're paying him, they probably should pay him more.
Yeah.
That guy's sharp. Hey, is it just me, or is my voice toned down? I must be when I talk nice about people, my voice must go down.
What is it? The smaller?
Yeah, the levels went way down. But
so this is like what you just said?
Yeah, and then the other thing was lower. But back to what I was saying is, while you were in your informal after meeting, right? I went on CNN. I have my outline today. I have what I want to talk about. I have my prediction sheet, right? But I went on CNN.com while I was waiting for you. And I found the funniest thing in the world. So instead of going by the outline, I'm going to pull what I literally pulled off of CNN 10 minutes ago. And me and you are going to do an exercise, okay?
I thought we were going to do an exorcism.
Maybe we will do an exorcism. We might have to. The article was, what is ISIS looking for? ISIS, the terrorist group, right? And they said through our raids and through our intelligent work, we found out what ISIS is looking for. Now, what I thought was very weird is how does ISIS get suicide attackers, jihadists, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, they have a form, just like our corporate overlords, right? Now, I actually ripped this from CNN. Today is March 10th, so the article, it was up at 5 o'clock, right? Now, instead, it wasn't even like joining jihad. It was like applying for a job, and I printed it up, and you're going to be my guinea pig, okay? I am an ISIS leader. I'm not really, but for the sake of theater.
So this is like almost like an application for ISIS?
Yeah, I printed it. It's straight off of CNN, okay? Now, let's say you want to join jihad. Okay. You want to join my jihad specifically because I am got the best jihad. I'm much better. Who are the people in Afghanistan? The Taliban?
Yeah.
Don't join those bastards in the Taliban. You want to join ISIS. Okay? We're going to go over we're going over the form, okay? 23 questions they ask you. So it's like a real job interview.
Oh my god.
Number 1, easy, first and last name. You're Ted Coley, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in front of Allah, you swear that your name really is Ted Coley. It is not alias, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'd be willing to do that.
Do you also have an assumed name? Like the guy who used to cut people's heads off? He was Jihadi John. Are you known as something else? Like in the UK, are you known as Terrible Ted?
No, I don't think there's any aliases.
No aliases. Now,
if I do this, will ISIS lose my personal information too?
No, because they don't put on a computer database.
Will they give me free credit monitoring?
They will give you free rock monitoring because they're going to chisel it into that rock over there. Okay, so I'm writing this down as we go. So far you have not eliminated yourself from jihad. Okay, 1, 2.
This is the ISIS background.
Your mother's name. You don't have to say it on the radio because your mom doesn't want to be a gimmick. But
so they asked your mother's name?
Yeah, they want to know your mother's name. Do you know your blood type?
Actually, I do not.
You do not?
Yeah.
Okay.
And every once in a while, I think to myself, I should probably know that.
Yeah.
But I never. I mean, who tells you that? I
Yeah.
assume your doctor, right?
Right. Well, here, I think what they mean is by blood type. Do you have filthy Jew blood?
No.
I think that's what they mean.
Do you know your blood type?
No. No, I used to, but I don't anymore. I've had to have blood before, too, so... Well, no, I shouldn't say I've had to have blood. I've had to write that down in case I needed blood. I'm just teasing. That I'm sure that that's what the jihadis say. Jews are our friends. Date of birth, nationality. What year were you born?
67.
And you're an American?
Yes.
Yes. And you were not born in Israel?
No.
Okay, so you're okay there. Marital status?
Single.
Single, okay. Address, me and you already know this for personal, you don't have to answer. Education. What college did you go to study jihad?
None.
You went to college for a week, I know.
See, I already lied,
I'm marking this down.
So they would...
Dirty lies.
So I would be beheaded at this point.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Me and you were at a table, but in a real jihadi interview, there'd be a big sword to remind you not to lie. You know, instead of a lie detector machine. Okay. Now, you went to a community college for a week. That doesn't really count. So you did not go to college. You did not go to a Christian school, correct? Any of those filthy Christians?
I went to Catholic grade school.
That's okay. You can still be jihad. Okay, what is your Sharia level?
See, that I don't know.
And see,
I don't understand
I think
the question.
now,
Can I pass and come back to that question?
yes, you can pass. But I think in the ISIS interview, this is where they kick you out. Where they say, you are not a true... I think, so it's question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You could have probably got to question 9. Then when you say, I don't know what my Sharia level is, that's probably where it dumps out, and you'd be out of it. But we'll just go, because there's only 23. Previous job...
Now, is this... Would I have to do this interview face-to-face, or...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to do it face-to-face.
Now, if I didn't pass, would they just let me leave, or would they kill me?
You know, that's a great question. You would think that they wouldn't want you to identify the interviewer, right? So I think you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you get to the interview process. I think if you're not good enough, I think they might kill you. But if you are good enough, you're in ISIS and you're kind of screwed. It's kind of a crappy catch-22 situation.
Yeah, you think regular interviews are filled with pressure.
Yeah,
Man.
right now I can see you're sweating. Why are you sweating, sir? What is your Sharia level? Excuse me? Okay, number 10. Your previous job, you worked at Iron Mountain. Did you talk of jihad with your other Iron Mountain employees?
No.
Okay, that's another X, because you should have been... What was it, the guy who was like somewhere in Oklahoma or Texas, they said he always talked about jihad at work. And he worked at like the water department or something.
Ooh, who's that?
Oh, it was like a couple months ago. Some guy shot up his office.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they said, oh no, he talked about jihad at work all the time. So you do not... Okay, that's another X. So far, 9 and 10, you have X's. Okay, but you know what? We might not be able to use you like in the videos, but maybe we could use you in a suicide attack. So we'll keep going. Countries visited. Have you ever visited Yemen or Somalia?
No.
God damn it. You know, Ali Akbar behind you, I know he's been to Yemen. The next guy on here, you're going to have to step it up. Point of border entry. How did you get into Iraq to talk to us here at ISIS?
Let's see. How did I get to Iraq?
You are getting another X. The next 2 questions are, how did you get into Iraq, and what was your date of entry? So far, you are doing horrible, right? Right now.
I started off well.
Yes, you did. Right now, the guy doing the interviews got the walkie-talkie, and he's calling in the backups. Oh no! Now you're in real trouble. Okay.
And you said there's 23 questions.
23 questions. You're like to question 13. Who recommended you for jihad? We do not take anybody for jihad. Since there's a visual, we'll just have to say that Ted pointed to somebody that we mutually know whose name is not recommended on the radio. Previous jihad experience, have you ever tried a jihad and failed? Okay, no jihad. Okay,
no jihadi experience.
Okay, here's a good one. And seriously, I printed this straight from CNN, right? Have you been a fighter before, or have you attempted suicide attacks before?
No.
Okay, now, it's okay that you weren't a fighter.
I've never committed suicide before.
Oh, wait. Well, that's what I was getting at. It's okay that you were not a suicide attacker because you would have failed at it, right? So now you want a second chance at suicide attack. A suicide attack's not that hard. You should be able to pull that off. Okay, so if you haven't done that before, that's okay. That's one of those one-shot deals where you don't need experience. You need experience as a fighter. So as we go through this questionnaire, I'm circling suicide attacker because we don't really need you as a fighter, but we can still use you as a suicide attacker. Okay? Next question.
So that I would be qualified for?
If you think you can pull the cord on the explosives, we're leaning towards suicide attacker at this point.
So are the guys who do that, are they like the lower level guys?
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, they don't want to keep those, the guys they want to do like attacks, like in Paris, where there's a degree of difficulty and you may need some experience in weaponry or logistics.
So, not to interrupt, but
oh no, go ahead.
In the corporate world, you have like what you call big picture guys. So, like somebody like Bin Laden, he was a big picture guy, and
big picture guy, like we should attack America.
Yeah,
but I delegate that down.
Yeah, he can't be doing the
right.
Yeah, because he's
the one who came up with the idea of attacking America. But what we need to do is we need to find some ground level people like yourself.
Do you think that Bin Laden worked 24/7?
I think until they dropped them in the river, he did, or dropped them in the ocean. Yes, I agree.
You see him doing like personal stuff and calling it jihad.
They said, now I don't know if it's true, but when
he's
they
doing
raided
his laundry. I work 24/7.
Well, that's the whole thing. They said he was doing 24/7, but what they said when they raided him, it's against the religion for pornography, and they said he had quite a stash. Again, this is according to U.S. government. Well, did he really have a stash of pornography, or was that propaganda to discredit him? And if he had all that pornography, I'm planning jihad. Don't come in here. You know what I mean? So you don't.
Or he would try to spin it like, well, I need this for for work.
I have to research why the Westerners are such dirty dogs. You know what I mean? Because we can't have these Westerners watching porn. So
well, didn't the hijackers on 9/11, like the night before, didn't a lot of them go to a strip bar? Yeah. Yeah. Field of specialty, explosives, guns, bombs. Are you good with C4? Can you blow stuff up? I've never tried.
Okay, so I still have suicide attacker for you.
Yeah, because I'm really...
Okay, current working place. You don't have to name it again because we've gone over that. That you have no experience with jihad at your current workplace.
No.
Personal properties left behind. Okay, you have a home somewhere, correct, Ted Coley? When let's say that you are a suicide attacker for us here at ISIS. Where would you? What are you going to do with your house? Have you thought that far in advance?
I guess I could leave it to ISIS, and then
they could try to sell it. Look, listen, right here.
Do you think ISIS would be able to sell my house?
Right here. Personal property, you get a star. Because if you leave your house to ISIS, okay, we will take that and we will sell it and we'll pocket the money for jihad. So
yeah, but they're not going to get as much as they think they're going to get for it.
They are assuming the risk on your house. Okay, now we're all the way down to question 19.
Now, is ISIS aware of the housing collapse here in the last?
I don't think they know about the housing collapse in Cleveland. The next one is the level of obedience. You're fairly obedient to the Quran. Can you name some passages out of the Quran?
No.
Any passage out of the Quran?
No.
Okay, you are getting another X for level of obedience. Okay, right here, I'm just to be honest between me and you, sir. I have you listed as suicide attacker because there's a lot of question marks here. But we do appreciate you're here for the cause, right?
Do you think there will be like a fatwa put on us? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, probably. We'll
if
be
anybody,
living like
if anybody listens,
we'll be like we'll end up like Salman Rushdie. Address for future communication. Now you cannot move back home. Okay, that house we're gonna take it over. We're probably gonna have suicide. You're gonna have to come live here in the caves. Okay.
ISIS will have to rent it out because they can't sell it.
Right. But we need to know which cave you're at. So do you remember the guy next to you so we can? Seriously, this is the question. Address for future communication is the question. Okay, because you can't go home, right? Because once you get in Iraq, it's not like you can go back to your house in Cleveland, right? So address for future communication. You don't have one of those, but you'll give it to me. Question 22, date of death and place. Now, I assume, again, I'm reading the questionnaire, I assume, do you prefer to be martyred here in Iraq, or would you prefer to go home and martyr yourself like in New York or LA?
So they give you that option?
Yes, they want to know where you would like to die.
Wow.
Like, have you ever wanted to see the Eiffel Tower? Paris is a nice place to die. You ever want to, you really hate...
there's travel opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Dayton, death place, right here. So say you don't like the new Prime Minister of Canada. For some reason, you don't like Trudeau. Excuse me. And you want to go to Toronto and do jihad. That is an option. So you can think about that. You don't have to answer right now because we're still locking those things down. And question number 23 is awesome because, as I said, me and you in real life just came from a corporate meeting, right? Number 23 is notes. I've been dictating this whole question. Do you have any questions for me, the interviewer? Do you have any notes that you'd like to pass along to the other people who will review your application?
I was just wondering the question before. Can I go to Antarctica and...
You cannot do jihad against penguins. Now, if you want to do it against American scientists there and say you're the first one to do jihad in Antarctica, you can do it. But so I saw this, and I said, you know what, I'm going to interview Ted. Now I'm having a good laugh at it, okay? But this is pretty close to what they're doing. It's like a job interview, right? And so right now, say anything happened to you, say you got laid off, right, in corporate downsizing, right? You could be a suicide bomber. I would still... Honestly, if I'm sitting across the table from you, I'd still hire you as a suicide bomber.
Well, thank you.
I'd still take you in for that. So after Beacon of Speech fails, we'll have other options to us. I'm sorry, Ted. You're shaking your head.
It's unbelievable.
And again, this is not me. This is not some scam. Literally, I'm waiting for you to get outside of your meeting after the meeting. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, what do you mean they have a 23-question questionnaire to get into ISIS?
And there are people in this country who have tried to join.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they had some girls from Europe who went over there. And the other thing was...
Yeah, whatever happened with them? Did they ever, rescue them? Or?
Oh, no. No, I don't think so.
They're over there?
Yeah, I think they're SOL.
God,
but one of the things I noticed was, I'm joking around with you, and, I'm asking you, about your, stuff. But once you get down to, question 15, do you want to be a fighter or suicide attacker, I assume this is the male questionnaire, right? I assume if you're a 17-year-old girl from Denmark who comes over, the question is, do you want to be a sex slave or do you want to be, the cook,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I'll be the cook. No, 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 you're going to be the sex slave. You know what I mean? But I think the rest of the, with the exception of that one, you could probably keep this for females too, for 22 out of the 23 questions. You know, do you have any notes? Do you, you know...
Yeah, it's just...
Ted, shaking your head is not good for radio.
Yeah, I know, but...
So, since we're talking about that, so that was unbelievable. And I took another quote, right? Oh yeah, we'll be back. This is my... Ted's pointing at my original outline. This is where we were going to start.
Okay.
And then these 2 sheets of paper is what I did while you were in your meeting after the meeting. Now, here's some trivia, okay? Who said this, okay? And this was not on CNN. Again, I'm waiting for you. This was on the Daily Beast, and I was stunned, okay?
So this is you're asking me.
I'm asking you this. This is a new topic, trivia question. This was on the Daily Beast again today. Who said this? The problem with the proposed... The problem is with the proposed solutions, okay? A society that relies too heavily on redistributing wealth eventually runs out of wealth to redistribute. Now, I'm going to read it again.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
They were talking about the elections, okay? Who said this? The problem with the proposed solutions, okay? A society that relies too heavily on redistributing the wealth eventually runs out of wealth to redistribute.
Okay, now...
Now that sounds like something you'd hear on like Rush Limbaugh or Glenn Beck or...
Yeah, now is this...
Sean Hannity.
Is this a current person? Like, is this one of the presidential contenders?
No.
Or is it somebody from...
It is a celebrity talking about one of the presidential contenders.
It's a celebrity.
It's a celebrity. And it's a trick question. It's a celebrity. I'll just read you the second part.
Okay.
A society that relies too heavily on redistributing the wealth eventually runs out of wealth to redistribute. Now, the politician the celebrity was talking about was Bernie Sanders. This celebrity has a problem with Bernie Sanders.
Okay, I'll say Clint Eastwood.
You are 100% wrong. A society that relies too heavily on redistributing the wealth eventually runs out of wealth to redistribute. Was said by Garry Kasparov, the chess player from Russia.
Oh.
He is in America right now campaigning against Bernie Sanders, saying the Soviet Union, which was communist, right?
Yeah.
But he was saying that the Soviet Union was socialists. Why in the world would the United States elect a socialist? Right? And to him, it doesn't make any sense. And he goes on to say that America has become fat and lazy after the Cold War, which you could agree with or disagree with. Now, don't you think... Now, me and you just did a 15-minute skit on ISIS, the ISIS application. Don't you think... If I told you, name 10 celebrities in Russia, at least if you told me, name 10 celebrities in Russia, Garry Kasparov would be on my top 10, okay, the chess player. And I think it's absurd that you have somebody from Russia coming to America telling Americans not to vote for the socialist.
Is that the guy who played Bobby Fischer? Who
I can't remember if it was Kasparov. When I was a kid... Kasparov and Karpov played each other, and I always got confused which one was which. And then one of them played Bobby Fischer, the other one played Deep Blue, the IBM machine, and I always got the two confused. And I did see a video of somebody took a drone and put a dildo on it and then flew it at Kasparov a couple of years ago, but that was funny. It wasn't political, right? But I'm like, don't you see anything absurd in that? I mean, the Daily Beast, I know it's not CNN, okay, but it used to be Newsweek. It used to be a fairly reputable thing there.
Yeah.
And again, everything goes back to Russia when I'm talking. So that's why I'm like, the absurdity of this whole election is just mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Which ties us back into, and we're going to circle around. I just thought that was interesting. Back into freedom of speech, which is what we are all about, right? Now, Gary Kasparov is not a citizen of America, to my knowledge.
You know what's funny about that quote is that I think Margaret Thatcher said something very close to that too.
Oh yeah, but that sounds like something Margaret Thatcher would say.
Yeah.
It sounds like something Ronald Reagan would say. It sounds like something Barry Goldwater would say. It's something Ronald Reagan would say.
Yeah, because she said something like the problem with socialism is that sooner or later you run out of other people's money.
Right. Yeah, and so when I read it, I expected it to say Rush Limbaugh, not Gary Kasparov.
Yeah.
So, Gary Kasparov is in the United States running or campaigning against Bernie Sanders, as absurd as that is. Now,
well, who does he like, did he say?
He just said not Bernie Sanders. He said you can't elect a socialist. He said you need to, and he said he did say who you should vote for. He said you should vote for a capitalist. Well, who's the biggest capitalist? Probably Trump.
Yeah.
He didn't say vote for Trump, but he said you vote for the biggest capitalist. So, and we're going to spin this 110 degrees. Me and you, our show is called Beacon of Speech. We talk about how freedom of speech is under attack, blah, 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 blah. Now, Gary Kasparov is a citizen of Russia. To my knowledge, he is not a citizen of the United States. Right?
Yeah.
Now, he can come to the United States and say all this right-wing stuff, which is fine. Right? Now, Mike Ditka, you know who Mike Ditka is?
Yeah.
You are a big football fan. You know who Mike Ditka is.
Oh, yeah.
He came out this week and he said, again, it's almost absurd, Obama is the worst president ever. Okay? Now, let's pretend like me and you say Obama is the worst president ever. What happens at our work? Fred, please shut up and go back to work. Please, I don't want to hear what you have to say.
We don't pay you for your opinions.
We don't pay you for your opinions. Your job is to move boxes. Mike Ditka came out and he said Obama is the worst president ever. Now,
well, you know what's so funny about that statement is that like anybody who says that knows all the presidents.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
Ditka's old enough where he knows half of them. Okay, but did you hear that Ditka said this?
No, I didn't hear that he said that.
Okay, Mike Ditka said that. What happened to him the next day?
I don't know.
Fired from ESPN.
Oh, really?
Yes.
This just I didn't even hear this.
Yeah, this week.
Wow, I didn't even...
So he went to work, and I'm unclear whether he said it on a format like me and you or on the microphone, or if he tweeted it. I assume he said it, though, because he's Mike frickin' Ditka. I don't see him, bouncing around on the Twitterverse. But maybe that's where he said it. Okay? Now, again, he doesn't work for the government. Your employer has the right to fire you. But don't you think it's a little extreme? Now, at this point, I'm pretty sure that Mike Ditka's probably, 78-ish, 75, 78-ish?
Yeah, I would say late 70s.
I'm guessing that they didn't really fire him just because he said Obama is the worst president ever. I have a feeling they're like, you know what, he's 78 years old, his contract's running out, we've had enough of him, we'll see you later. Okay? But again, Mike Ditka can turn around and say, I don't even have freedom of speech in America. He didn't use any curse words. He didn't say kill Obama. He didn't say anything. He said, I think he's the worst president ever. And out he goes, right? Now, on the same vein, and again, this is why speech is under attack in America, and this is what we're talking about. Same week, Kurt Schilling, the Phillies pitcher, he's retired. Now, he doesn't work for ESPN. I believe he works for... I'm chattering my teeth together. Is it Fox?
I'm not sure.
He came out and said, Trump is Hitler. Okay? Now, I've been hearing this Trump is Hitler stuff a lot lately. Okay? I don't like Trump. We talked about Trump for ad nauseum last week. I don't think Trump is Hitler.
No.
Now, what happened to Kurt Schilling?
He got promoted?
Kurt Schilling, last I heard, was on suspension. They suspended him while they decided what to do with him.
Mm.
Now, Trump is Hitler. He, again, did not swear. He did not... And...
You know, there's been a lot of bad guys in history, and why do people always go to Hitler?
Yeah. And
why don't they say, like, Trump is Stalin? Or...
Yeah, and you know what? For Hitler dying in 1945, that was 70 years ago. I read in the Daily Mail last week...
Trump is Pol Pot.
Yeah, that's better. Trump is Pol Pot. 2 weeks ago, I read in the Daily Mail that
Trump is Khrushchev.
Hitler had a micro penis. Okay? An extremely large or small penis. How do they know? Okay? Now, I read the story and I still didn't know. And then I saw something that was like in the Guardian UK or something, right? And it was just this week. It said Hitler had and again, this is from some intelligence agency. Hitler had weird fetishes. He liked to have feces flung at him. Okay? Now, I've never heard of this. You think this would have come up sometime other than in the last 2 weeks in this last 70 years.
So basically, somebody started smearing Hitler.
Yeah, so people are smearing Hitler. Now, number one, I don't know if he had a micropenis or not. But how is this new information that's just released?
Yeah.
Okay? Number two, if he liked to have feces flung at him, how do they know? You don't document that crap. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, think of your deepest, darkest secret, okay, Ted? You don't have to tell us.
I have heard that the Germans, that the Nazis, like, were meticulous and they took notes on everything.
Right, but that's where I'm going. Your deepest, darkest secret, okay, whatever it is, would you write it down and then put it in an archive somewhere? No. No, my deepest, darkest secrets are right here. Yeah. When I'm dead, they're dead too. Okay?
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that they're like, oh crap, we found a safe. And you talked about how Hitler liked to have feces flung at him. And so I go back to Kurt Schilling and they're like Trump is Hitler. I'm like, you know what? For a number of reasons I can think of, Trump isn't Hitler. Okay? Now, he can say that he's Hitler and he's using hyperbole. Does he deserve to lose his job at Fox or whatever network he's not with ESPN, I think it's Fox. Does he deserve to lose his job for saying Trump is Hitler?
You know what's funny is that actually, if you look at it, what Kurt Schilling said is worse than what Mike Ditka said.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you there. Because you're Obama the worst president.
Yeah, because all Mike Ditka was saying is that Obama's just a bad
sucks.
President.
Yeah.
Kurt Schilling is saying Trump is a mass murderer.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. I wonder what will happen to him.
Well, that's the whole thing. That, it's still a developing story. I could go back on. But it goes back to Kurt Schilling is probably around 50-ish, maybe. Let's say 50.
Yeah.
He's probably got 20 good years worth of commentary, coaching, whatever. You know what I mean? Mike Ditka, they're looking for a reason to put him out the pasture. You know what I mean? So, again, is it about the speech? Is it about getting rid of a person? It's like, well, you have free speech except for when we don't like you. When you're Charles Barkley, you can say whatever you want, and if you get ratings, where's the line? You see what I'm saying? Which, again, spins us on to the next topic, okay, of freedom of speech, is where is the line? Okay? And I'm writing this down, I'm putting an X. I was angry, and I'm going to talk about myself, okay?
I remember when George W. Bush was president.
Right.
I remember people saying that he was the worst president ever.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, exactly who said it, but I'd be willing to put money on it that they weren't fired.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah. And well, that's the whole thing. You're exactly right. And if you look at historians, I'm 99% sure that they said the two worst presidents of the century were at the beginning of the century. It was like Coolidge and Woodrow Wilson because they didn't respect the presidency. You know what I mean? And I never heard a historian say Obama's the worst. I've never heard one say Bush is the worst. You know, people say it.
Yeah.
Right? But does that take away your right to say that they're the worst? And again, you don't know if they're any worse than, who's the guy, William Henry Harrison, who was president for a month, you know, and then got the flu.
Yeah.
You know, well then, what's the worst? And they're like, well, they're using hyperbole and effect. You know what I mean? You're firing people for giving their opinions.
Yeah, that's...
But, so talking about those two guys, I had something similar happen to me this week.
Do I know about this?
No, this is brand new. I've been sitting on this week. This week on Tuesday, now, me and you are going to be very vague, but you know at where we work, I've been very aggravated this week. Would you say that's fair?
Yes.
And on Tuesday, I went home and I was very aggravated, and I went on Facebook, and there's a song called Bleeding Me by Metallica. Are you familiar with the song Bleeding Me by Metallica?
No.
Okay, well, it's a 9-minute song from one of the middle Metallica albums. I don't even remember if it's on Load or Reload or what. Okay, but it was after Master of Puppets. It was after Ride the Lightning. I'm trying to think of where Bleeding Me was, but it was in the middle of the Metallica discography, right? So it's not fast, you know. It's not Whiplash or anything, you know. It's not Damage Incorporated. It's slower, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the song is all about being frustrating and bleeding to death, okay. And I took 2 lines from the Metallica song, right? Here's the two lines I'm going to show you. This is lyrics from Metallica. The thorn is from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
The thorn is from the tree I planted, okay? I posted on Facebook, right? Metallica Bleeding Me, I posted the link, right? And then I put the lyrics, and then in place of I put that Iron Mountain planted, right? So I thought it was funny, you know. I'm aggravated by the tree that Iron Mountain planted. You know, the thorn sticks me. You know, I thought it was funny, right? So I'm like, ha ha ha, right? So I posted, and then later on in the day, I talked to my wife. I said, oh, how was your day today? And she goes, oh, did you have a bad day at work? And I go, what do you mean did I have a bad day at work? How do you know I had a bad day at work? And she goes, you post on Facebook. I said, oh, yeah, I thought it was funny. And she goes, I don't think it was funny. And I said, oh, okay, well, you know, you're you and I'm me. And she goes, no. I got a text from my cousin, the lawyer, and this is a true story. She is a corporate lawyer. She represents companies in social media cases. She says what your husband posted on Facebook is enough that if his company doesn't like him, he can be terminated.
Yeah.
She goes, you tell him to pull that post down now, right? And so I put my feet up and I laughed. And I said, yeah, I won't be pulling that post down. I said,
Is it still there?
No, it's not. Because I laughed. I said, that post ain't there. Or I said, that post is staying up there. And she goes, no, it's not. I'll go on the computer. I know what your password is. I'll take it down. Don't be an idiot. Just take it down. And I said, all it is lyrics to a Metallica song. There's no swearing in it. There's no, like, I'm burning down the house. You know, nothing like that. She goes, take it down. I said, okay, that's fine. It's not worth arguing about. Right? And Ted's looking at the lyrics again. And again, if I had the computer up, I would just... Because when I was a kid, I used to listen to Metallica like crazy. Ride the Lightning was my favorite album, right?
Is that exactly how it appears on the post?
Yeah. In parentheses, instead of I put parentheses, I put Iron Mountain, meaning I substituted Iron Mountain for I.
But is it just the letters I and M?
Yeah.
Or is it the actual Iron...
Oh, I think I put the company, but maybe it did say I am. But like I said, take a second. I can do whatever I want. As long as I'm not saying I'm going to work and, you know, I work for ISIS. But I was stunned that my wife's cousin, the corporate lawyer, called her and told me to take it down. I'm like, Ted, I'm literally nobody. People literally have millions of followers. How many people listen to our webcast?
Like, this shows you that people probably have too much free time now.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. I don't have that many Facebook friends. And I'm friends with my wife's cousin. She's a nice lady. She is.
So she's the one who saw it.
She saw it.
And then she told your wife.
And then she sent a text to my wife and said, have your husband take that down because he could be terminated. They said, according to the letter of the law, if they don't like him, they can... So I took it down. But again, it goes back to, and now we'll go back to Kurt Schilling and Mike Ditka. Let's say that my wife's cousin didn't say it, right? Let's say that I had a friend here who's like, oh, Fred Hunt, he's a troublemaker. And then they went to the boss who was on Facebook, which he's not, right? Because he likes to, you know, besmirch people anonymously, right? But then they could come back and then they could have thrown this into the legal department, according to my wife's cousin. It's like, oh, you don't need that headache. What kind of country is this? And again, it's, should I have done that? No, probably not. But like I said, it was funny. And like I said, all day I had that song "Bleeding Me" by Metallica in my head, and I'm like singing it. You know, bleeding me.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah. But like I said, you know, and I used to say this to Jim all the time. I won't say his last name. It's never the guy who walks around work going, this place sucks, this place sucks. It's always the guy who's quiet, and they're like, oh, he never said, he was always quiet and kept to himself. Those are the guys you got to watch out for.
So that's me, right?
Well, yeah, pretty much that's you. Well, except for the guy who was talking about jihad in Texas or Oklahoma there. So yeah, so I'm like, I'm not that, and I'm not, again, all I was doing was quoting song lyrics. I didn't even steal from it. Metallica likes to sue people for stealing.
That's what I was thinking just now.
All I did was print up 2 lines. I was afraid that if I printed the whole song lyrics, that Metallica would come sue me.
So wouldn't it be funny if, like, on the same day, Iron Mountain fired you, and then you got sued by Metallica?
I got sued by Metallica for printing their lyrics without permission.
So they're not even your words.
Yeah.
And you get fired.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's like, oh, man. But again, that's what I'm talking about. Everything is absurd.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I'm going to flip it over to the other extreme because, like I said, I've been all animated this week. I'm watching American Dad. Do you know what American Dad is?
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's like Family Guy, but it's on TBS, right? I was watching American Dad, and I love American Dad, okay? It was on 8:30 on WTBS, which is the superstation, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's WTBS or TBS.
It's TBS, I think, now.
It's a superstation. At 8:30 in the evening, they said that word that's circled on the piece of paper. See that word?
Yeah.
It starts with S and rhymes with hit. Okay?
They said that on...
Yes. At 8:30 on TBS. And I'm like, what are the rules anymore? When can you swear? When can't you swear? It's okay if you swear here, but not there. And I love American Dad. Mm-hmm. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying nothing. Right? Last Friday, I was listening to Rover's Morning Glory, the morning show, right? And all it is a local show. I think they're syndicated in 1 or 2 markets, right? Mm-hmm. 8:30 in the morning, they're interviewing Jason Mewes from Clerks. He said the MFer word, right? At 8:30 in the morning, and they missed it. They didn't hit the thing. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can't say MFer on terrestrial radio at 8:30. I even looked at the paper. Is there anything going on? Did anybody pick it up online? Nobody. But I'm not going to complain about Rover because I like Jason Mewes. I loved him in Clerks. I loved him in Clerks 2. I like Jason Mewes. I won't get him in trouble either. He was promoting the Comic-Con, the Cleveland Comic-Con or whatever. And I'm like, What are the rules? What gets you fired? What doesn't get you fired? And it's almost like
Now, after he said that, did they kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa?
no. It was
they just like kind of ignored it.
no, they didn't. They ignored it like he didn't say it.
Okay.
But they got out over air. And the funny thing is, because I like Kevin Smith, I have an autographed Kevin Smith poster. I had heard the story before, so I knew it was coming. You know what I mean? I had heard it on the Kevin Smith Smodcast, SMOD cast. I had heard the story before, so I knew it was coming.
Because now he was actually quoting something that Ben Affleck said.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because we talked about this. And he was.
So the original guy who said MFer was Ben Affleck.
Yes.
Okay.
Ben Affleck said it. Jason Mewes told the story about what Ben Affleck said.
About him, basically.
About him, and then he repeated it. You know, it's like whenever a funny story happens, you know, you say it over and over. Well, the story of him meeting Ben Affleck in rehab's hilarious, right? So you could tell it 10 times, I would laugh every time, right? But I would assume that you'd have the finger on the trigger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I assume there was a delay.
Well, that's what I assume too. And I'm like, how do you miss that? And if you're interviewing a guy, I assume you're across the table. You know what I mean? I assume Rover's here and Jason Mewes is right there. Even if they're on location, it's not like he's in one booth and Jason Mewes is on remote. I went back and after he said that, I went back and watched Clerks. Clerks really is the best movie ever made.
You know, I saw it once, and it was a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
so I really can't.
Well, now that I made my movie, right, the thing that I noticed, and I did notice some of the sound and some of the things I noticed about my movie, I noticed about Clerks, and I'm like, I don't care. Clerks is still the best movie ever made.
And how much did it cost to make that movie?
I think, now I don't have it in front of me, I think he said that he took every credit card that he could find and every penny he could find, and the movie cost $20,000. Okay, the movie that we made cost $4,000. Mm-hmm. He did his on film, and he did like I said, Clerks is exponentially better than mine. But I think it cost $20,000. And then once he showed the movie to like investors and stuff, I believe once they got the soundtrack cost, I think the rights to like the songs cost $50,000 or $60,000, and then they did like post editing, and I think when they were 100% done, and again I don't have the figures in front of me, I think it was like $80,000 between the soundtrack, the filming, and the post production. Whereas mine was $4,000 period.
And do you know how much it made?
Well, that's a trick, because when it first came out, I don't think that it made that much money. I think it was on limited release. But, I mean, if we weren't using the computer, we could look it up. The catch is that they re-released it on DVD. They sold 1 million DVD copies. They re-released it, the Clerks 10th Anniversary Edition. They sold it to Netflix. So say they sold it to Netflix for $500,000. That's not on the Wikipedia page. So that movie has made, well, millions of dollars. And again, when he made Clerks, he didn't make his money on Clerks. He made it on the next film he made. Which is why, if we ever become popular, we're never going to make movie on Blasphemers. We make money on Blasphemers 2 or the zombie cartoon movie I have in my head.
Well, is he the one who did Chasing Amy?
Yes, he did Chasing Amy, Mallrats. They're working on Mallrats 2, the sequel.
Well, when you say he made money off his second movie, what was his second movie?
Mallrats.
Okay.
And then Chasing Amy, and then, and again, Kevin Smith never became a multi-millionaire. You know, he's not Brad Pitt. He's not making $20 million a movie. You know what I mean? He's not even Quentin Tarantino. And I'm not saying quality. I'm talking about how much they're paying him. You know what I mean? Like, he was attached to the Green Lantern movie, and he was supposed to make a big payday, and then it never happened. He's... You know how they always say character actors keep working because they need the money. Well, Kevin Smith is like a working man's director because he needs the money. He makes good money, but he doesn't make FU money. You know what I mean?
Well, he's on, what is it, Comic Book Men?
He's on Comic Book Men. And again, I don't know how much he makes off his podcast, but he's got to make, if he has advertisements off there, he's probably making some money there, making money off Comic Book Men. And again, I assume he made some money on Clerks the Cartoon for ABC. I don't know how much money he got for that. But again, did you make like enough money to live for 6 months, or did you make, money to put away for your kids? That's between him and his accountant, not for me. I'm just saying, as far as I know, he never made a payday where he could say, screw you. Mm-hmm. He seems like a decent guy. Like I said, I love him. I got my Kevin Smith poster right next to my bed. So now Ted's making a face like I'm a big loser. I'm not arguing that point, Ted. Okay? So I would be remiss if I didn't say Joe is not with us this week. He probably won't be with us next week. Joe the empty chair. He's taking care of his twins. Mm-hmm. He's on leave of absence from work and from Beacon of Speech. Excuse me. So, there's another Joe, but not the right one. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
We were just talking about the other Joe, Joe Kaufman. We were saying that he would rather take care of his children than do Beacon of Speech with us.
It's very selfish.
Yeah, he's a selfish man. I hope he listens to this and goes, I hate those two.
I don't think he'd say that.
He's probably half asleep. He's probably hallucinating listening to this. Well, when we saw him earlier this week, he had bags under his eyes, and I'm like talking to him, and you could tell he's like zoning out.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And then he got mad, because I don't know if you heard the story or not, and I'll tell the story for the audience and embarrass Joe since he's not here. He said he was holding his son, and he had just fed him, right? And his son's kind of awake, kind of asleep, so he's holding him, and he's got his son on his lap, and he's got the remote. He's playing video games while his son is in his arm and across his lap. And he goes, and I'm like kind of nodding off, kind of playing video games, kind of staying up, it's the middle of the night. And he goes, and then I feel warm liquid running down my leg, right? And here the kid just peed straight down my leg. I'm like, are you sure you weren't sleeping and you didn't pee down your own leg? He's like, no, it wasn't me.
Wow.
So that's how, did he tell you that story?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, so I felt really bad for her. So that's how his week is going. And again, with two boys, you're feeding, changing, sleeping for an hour, feeding, changing, sleeping for an hour.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll be back soon.
Well, I think he said he might, not this week, and probably not next week, but by the end of the month, I think I might give him a courtesy call and see if he wants to come up and have an excuse to get out of the house. And even if he comes and falls asleep on the table across from us, that's fine too.
Yeah, you can make fun of him then again.
Oh yeah, I'll be making fun of him. I'll be like, hey, someone's peeing down your leg. Whoa, my kid. He looks on the floor.
I'll have a cup of water behind him.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do, we'll have to be mean to him some other way. Hey, is everybody gone from the meeting, or are people still bopping around?
I don't know to be. I didn't go up front.
But I mean, in the vault, everybody's out of the vault, right?
Yeah, everybody's out of the vault.
Okay.
And I'm having scanner issues, but good thing I'm not. You weren't doing it back there because I was mumbling upset.
Well, that's the thing. When we do it in the rock and roll break room, when we do the show in the rock and roll break room, we can't access online.
No.
We use the computer as the studio, but when we're up front, we can access the internet, but you got to play around. And I accidentally deleted half a show earlier this year, right, Ted?
Yeah.
So
some of our best work too.
Yeah. And so I tried not to go on the computer while we're talking, but back here we can't go on at all. All we can do is save the sound file.
Oh.
So, as a matter of fact, I just saw the thing change colors, so I just want to make sure it doesn't go.
Well, I'll let you guys do it.
Okay, but hey, it's good to see you, though. So anyhow, what I was going to say, this is a part where we would ask Joe his predictions. I only have one prediction today. sports. All winter, we know about Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel is even in tabloids across the ocean. Like, I was reading in some soccer magazine. There was one of the guys in the Premier League, and he got busted for abusing kids. I don't remember what it was, right? But the next story down under English football was Johnny Manziel partying. Okay? So this is not just a United States phenomenon. This story was in Britain, right? He's like a Kardashian of American sports, right? Well, they said, we're not going to put up with shenanigans. The Cleveland Browns came out as of yesterday, March 9th, at 4 o'clock, they could cut Johnny Manziel. And they said that we will be dealing with Johnny as soon as possible, right? So at 4 o'clock on March 9th, they could have cut Johnny Manziel.
But they did not, right?
But they did not. Okay? And that made me very angry because they lost. That day, they lost all their free agents. All their free agents signed with other teams. Did you know this?
No, actually, go on, because I would like to know, because I really haven't been paying
Alex
attention.
Mack signed with another team. Mitchell Schwartz signed with another team.
Who's Mitchell Schwartz?
The right guard or right tackle. Who's our leading receiver last year? He signed with the San Diego Chargers. And the other guy, Gibson. Tashawn Gibson. He signed with somebody else too. But by midnight yesterday, they didn't cut Johnny, and all their good players signed with other teams.
But we signed some people, didn't we?
Well, we signed a special teams guy last week. All of our unrestricted free agents signed somewhere else. They all literally ran out of town.
Yeah.
We signed our restricted free agents and people like Terrell Pryor. We signed him to a tender, meaning if he makes it through training camp as a wide receiver, then we can keep him.
Now wait a minute. Is one of the guys we lost Benjamin?
Travis Benjamin, yeah, that's the guy. That's the
He's
guy we
the
lost
one
to
who
the
would run back
Chargers.
punts, right?
Yeah.
We lost him.
Yeah. So we literally lost everybody who was available for everybody.
That's pretty bad.
We have 53 men on the team, and I was listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, and they're like, well, the Bengals had 12 unrestricted free agents. We only had 4 unrestricted free agents, so even if we lost all 4, technically the Bengals could lose more. It's like, hey, you know what? Cleveland, I'll tell you what. I listen to the Rizzo show, and sometimes it makes me mad.
So basically, in the last week, there hasn't been any positive thing we've done, right?
No. But let me tell you something real quick, because I listen to radio all the time. Okay, in Cleveland, I want to go on the record. The worst radio show in Cleveland is on WKNR. It's the Aaron Goldhammer show, the Golden Boys. That guy is horrible. Okay, he just sucks. Okay, but the second worst show on the radio is Cleveland Browns Daily on WKNR. And those guys that they rotate on there, they're basically, they might as well just be Browns apologists and be like, well, you got to look towards the future. You got to understand what the Browns are trying to do. Yeah, I know what they're trying to do. They're idiots. You cannot be as bad as the Browns for 10 years straight, right? NFL is set up for parity, right? You almost have to try to be that as bad as they are, right? And those guys at Cleveland Browns Daily, I have never seen bigger shills for their teams than those guys on that show. And I was listening to them today, and I just wanted to pound my head on the steering wheel. I had to go to Michigan today. So, even, again, I went to Michigan.
Because I thought I heard Trevisano yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, say, because I only listened to him for like 30 seconds, and he said something like, thought he said something like, hey, the Browns signed 4 guys who can actually play football. Did I mishear that?
No. Those were either restricted free agents or guys. He might have been counting Gary Barnidge that they signed 2 months ago, too.
Okay, so these are people that we signed that we already had?
Yeah. Yeah, we extended their contract before they hit free agency, or they were restricted and we signed them.
Okay, so it wasn't anybody new, like from another team.
No, we haven't signed anybody. Here, I'm holding up my hands, right? Since the league year started yesterday at 4 o'clock, we signed 0 people. All of our unrestricted free agents are gone. All of them. And Johnny Manziel is still with the team. Now, Johnny Manziel, the big pain in the ass, who's even in overseas newspapers, that's how big his exploits are, okay? He's still on the team. And I keep hearing that, well, they maybe instead of cutting him, they'll try and trade him.
Yeah, to get something for him.
Or because he might be arrested for domestic violence. If he is suspended by the league, they can go to court and get some of his signing bonus back. Well, at this point, if you're $40 million under the cap, why would you care about $1 million signing bonus? You know what I mean? It's literally absurd. Okay? So, here's the prediction. Because the Browns apparently... this is what I was going to say. I went to Michigan today, so I turned on Detroit radio, right? And I'm listening to the Detroit guys, and they were talking about the Red Wings and stuff. And then they went to the Jim Rome show, right? The number one story on the Jim Rome show, and I like Jim Rome, okay? Number one story on the Jim Rome show was Brock Osweiler leaving the Broncos and going to the Texans. What do you think the number 2 story was?
Johnny Manziel.
Yep, number 2 story was the Browns lost all their free agents and kept Johnny Manziel. That was the number 2 story on the Jim Rome show today. And that shows nationally what a joke they are. So it's not just me, it's not just you, it's not just the guy down the street. And like I said, I respect Jim Rome's opinion. I don't know if, if we're the biggest story by losing all our free agents in one day but keeping Johnny Manziel, I respect his opinion. So,
well, we do have, what is it, the 2nd pick in the draft?
2nd pick in the draft.
Is that the only first-round pick we have?
No. Well, yeah, we have... Okay. This is where I'm confused, so don't hold me to it, okay? We have the number 2 pick in the draft, which is in the first round. For some reason, somebody lost a first-round draft pick. And I don't know why. Excuse me. I wish we had a cough button. But, so the first pick of the second round is pick number 32. Well, any other year, number 32 would be in the first round. This year, it's in the second round. Does that make sense?
I guess.
We got the first pick of the second round, number 32.
First pick of the second round.
Right, because we had, who's got the number 1 pick? Tampa Bay? Oh, no, Tennessee. They said, yeah, Tennessee gets the first pick, but we get the first pick in the second round because of tiebreakers or something.
All right.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was confused. I'm not even 100% sure about that.
Like,
I just know
everything's confusing.
I'm 100% sure that we have the number 2 pick in the draft. I'm not sure about that number 32 or 33 pick.
So what are they thinking? Are we going to get a quarterback? Or
They're thinking we're going to get a quarterback, but Mary Kay Cabot of the Plain Dealer, literally, when I was looking up the CNN thing, she goes, well, what if the Browns didn't cut Johnny Manziel because they want to trade him to San Francisco for Kaepernick? And I'm like, you know what? If you're just going to make stuff up, I almost said the S word.
The thing is, would you give up Kaepernick for Johnny Manziel?
No. Well, she didn't say it would be 1 for 1. Her thing is that Kaepernick, the 49ers are asking for a second-round pick, right? And they said, what if the Browns were offering a third-round pick and Johnny Manziel for Kaepernick?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they haven't cut him. Well, she might as well work for Cleveland Browns daily because that's pie-in-the-sky stuff. And again, why would San Francisco take that problem? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that somebody's not going to take a flyer on them, but they're not. Let's look at it from the San Francisco 49ers point of view. Their front office, and granted, they're not the smartest, the sharpest tools in the shed there.
San Francisco?
Yeah. But they would have to know that in the newspaper and on their public relations that they're trading Manziel for Kaepernick. Whether it's a pick and Manziel for Kaepernick, the headline is Manziel for Kaepernick. That's a PR nightmare. You know what I mean? I mean, there's got to be some sort of optics that says not to do that. Now, maybe San Francisco would pick him up and not pay anything for him. You know what I mean?
Now, Kaepernick, like that first year, he was really good, but he's kind of been mediocre
ever since
right?
Harbaugh left. He's been. They had a guy on from some national publication, and I'm sorry I forgot because I didn't. But he said Kaepernick literally gets worse every single game since Harbaugh left.
Yeah.
So do you want that aggravation? You basically have to rebuild his confidence, rebuild him from the ground up. Now, I'm not saying whether you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying Kaepernick went to a Super Bowl. Johnny Manziel drank himself into oblivion when he was supposed to start on Sunday. I mean, there's a big difference.
So as far as you know, Kaepernick doesn't have any substance problems, right?
No, but I don't know. He always seemed like a real quirky guy to me to begin with, Kaepernick, so I don't know. But again, you never really know. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, so anyhow.
So was it Mary Kay Cabot is just like making up like things?
Well, maybe it'll be proven wrong. Maybe she's like, well, it makes sense. We want to get rid of our quarterback, and they want to get rid of their quarterback. So maybe there's like a remedial amount of stuff, but it's just like, when you try and speculate about stuff in your company, you don't know, Mary Kay Cabot, she's in the building. She should know, not she should be spitballing, you know what I mean? If she covers the Browns, she should have an idea. So anyhow, our prediction for the week, okay? 2 weeks from today. Now today I kept hearing, why didn't they cut him? Why didn't they cut him? Why didn't they cut Manziel? They should have cut Manziel. And I agree, I feel like they should have cut Manziel, okay? My prediction is on March 20th, in 2 weeks, they're still going to have Manziel, and he's just going to be sitting there. They're not going to answer any questions. My prediction, and why did I make it? Because the Browns are still stupid. And then I'm going to put Jim Rome's show, because like I said, Jim Rome was making fun of him. Against the first day of free agency, and Jim Rome's telling a Browns joke as the second story. Okay? Now, on March 20th, so I'm going to ask for your prediction.
About Johnny Manziel?
Yeah. In 2 weeks, do you think he's still going to be with us? Do you think he's going to be cut? Or do you think he's going to be traded? In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks?
Yes, in 2 weeks.
I say... I hate to go along with you because it doesn't make it a good bet, but I say he'll still be with us.
Okay. I'm just going to write ditto. And
because for one thing, like his legal situation is still up in the air, right?
Right.
And who's gonna take him when that's a giant unknown?
Right. And the thing is, they should just cut ties. They should just say, see you later. But they don't. They're like, oh, well, what if we can do this? What if we can do this?
Like right now is a grand jury hearing evidence on his, and that the jury is still...
Yes. The Dallas Police Department said, we don't know if there's enough. Here's the evidence. They basically punted, and they gave it to the grand jury.
Yeah.
And they said, listen, grand jury, it's up to you. And they said, okay, we're going to deliberate. So right now it's in deliberation. But every day that you don't do something is a day that he could kill a hooker, And then the headline says Cleveland Browns quarterback kills hooker. I gotta get some water because my throat's been doing some weird stuff on this show. So I apologize to the listener, both of you, basically Dave and Joe, and anybody else who might potentially listen later. But all right, we're getting close to the end. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so well, one thing, and I won't say his name, but one of the other guys that we work with, he made a prediction.
Right.
He said that, Peyton Manning announced his retirement, which he didn't say that, but, you know. His prediction is that Peyton Manning is going to end up with the Browns.
There's no... in front office or as quarterback?
Well, front office.
Oh, that could happen.
And he said because Peyton Manning is from Tennessee.
Yeah.
And isn't our owner?
Yeah, they're Tennessee buddies, yeah.
So
our owner, his brother is the governor of Tennessee. So they all run in the same circles.
What do you think about it? Would you agree with that prediction?
I disagree, but I don't have a feel for it one way or the other. Because right now we don't have a president. Last week they asked they said that this was another funny thing. We're talking about corporations. Last week they said their president was stepping away. Well, did he quit? No, he's stepping away.
Well,
did you fire him?
The Browns
Yeah.
president?
Yeah, Alex Shiner. So we don't have a president now. And he did it like the day before Peyton Manning retired. So, again, talking about optics, it makes sense because he knows this. He retired the same day we lost our president.
Do we have a vice president?
If we do, I don't know his name.
And if he steps away, then who takes it? Speaker of the House?
I don't know. Okay, I'm changing the subject. Okay, one of our recurring topics on Beacon of Speech is dead rockers. Okay? We won't dwell on this. We're only going to touch upon this very briefly. But, I always try to have a song of the day, and we never play the song of the day because, again, we'd be in copyright infringement. If I had Bleeding Me by Metallica as song of the day, that would be ripped from the internet in 2 seconds. Song of the day is a novelty song from 1961. Are you familiar with the song My Boomerang Won't Come Back by Charlie Drake?
No.
No. Okay. Now, when I was a kid, I used to get all those novelty albums like Dumb Ditties and Silly Songs, and I love novelty music. I love Dr. Demento's show. If it was on the radio, I'd still listen to it today. Okay? I loved all that. My Boomerang Won't Come Back is arguably one of the worst novelty songs ever written. Right? The whole song is this guy's got a fake Australian accent, and he's in the outback. He can't figure out why his boomerang won't come back.
That was from 61?
1961. Right? And at the very end of the song, an expert comes and he goes, well, the problem is you have to throw it. Oh, I have to throw it. I'm like, this is the dumbest song ever written. Okay? Made it to number 14 on the charts. You remember, every song around 1960 that was a novelty song? The Purple People Eaters of the world, they were all hits. Well, My Boomerang Won't Come Back was number 4. Could you imagine a novelty song going up to number 14 nowadays? There's no way. Like Annoying Orange. An Annoying Orange song becoming the number 14 hit in the nation. So it just shows you what type of environment we're in today. But the reason it's a song of the day is, you know who the producer was for My Boomerang Won't Come Back?
Wait a minute. Was it Phil Spector?
George Martin.
George Martin.
The fifth Beatle who died this week.
Wow.
And so I'm listening to radio and they're talking about George Martin was the fifth Beatle, and you love the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
Of all the people who should have been the fifth Beatle, I keep reading George Martin really was the fifth Beatle. Paul McCartney wrote a touching tribute. Ringo Starr loved or wrote a touching tribute. Everybody loved George Martin. But again, he was the producer, correct?
Yes.
So I'm looking at all of his hits, and they're like, oh, he produced all these Beatles hits until, the later stuff.
Oh, yeah, he did, like, before the Beatles, he did, like, comedy.
He did comedy albums. And so when they said he started doing novelty songs in the late 50s. And I'm like, and so I'm trying to picture this, okay? The year is 2016, right? Can you imagine this George Martin fellow? He's in the studio with the guy singing "My Boomerang Won't Come Back," and he's talking about throwing his boomerang. Do you think that guy ever thought that he would one day produce the biggest rock band in the history of the world?
No.
I mean, that would have been, what, 1965, 66 when he was producing the Beatles, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, starting from, 62, probably.
So that was literally a year later.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like 5 or 10 years later, but you're right. It would have been a couple of years later.
Yeah.
So that's how fast the world can turn.
Yeah.
And like I said, if we had internet access, I would play that song. Next time we're outside of here, I'll play that song for you. That song is so horrible, Ted. As a matter of fact, it's like so bad. It's not, you know how some things are so bad it's good? It's so bad, it makes you angry because it's so bad. And again, it was a hit. And, somebody might be like, oh, well, Kanye West is, a comedy. But no, I'm being serious.
So basically...
It's basically... this is basically Purple People Eater.
So basically, a novelty song is probably supposed to make you feel good or make you laugh or something, but it basically just made you angry.
Oh, yeah, that one. I love almost all novelty music. Even if it's bad, it's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, Cheech and Chong did some really good stuff. But some novelty music, it was like, what were you thinking? What kind of sense of humor did people have in the 50s that this was considered comedy?
I just remember reading, when George Martin first got introduced to the Beatles and he was producing their first record.
Uh-huh.
He obviously didn't know those guys, and everybody was nervous and everything. And George Martin said, just let me know if there's anything you don't like. Yeah. And George Harrison said, I don't like your tie. I guess that kind of broke the ice.
But see, it seems like since we've started this, we've been talking about dead rockers like every other week, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and I know George Martin is not like a household name, but, I know because of my mom. She loved the Beatles just like you do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I didn't know if you're like, oh, it's a huge loss, or if you're like, well, he's 92, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I actually, over the last couple of years, I've thought a couple times, is he still alive? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because, a lot of times I knew he was old.
Right.
And a lot of times people die and you don't hear about it.
I just remember that, how I wrote for Top Tens? They had an article, and it was a pretty good article. It was top 10 people claiming to be the fifth Beatle.
Yeah.
Oh no, Pete Best.
Yeah, Pete Best.
He was the fifth Beatle. No. George Martin was the fifth Beatle. No.
Brian Epstein.
Brian Epstein was the fifth Beatle. No. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't believe that there's all these fifth Beatle people. If I was Paul McCartney, I'd be like, there were 4 Beatles, and the rest of you guys all were lackeys.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't think that about George Martin, but...
No, I think that he played an important role. Yeah. I mean, hey, 90 years, that's a full life.
Well, since we're bringing you down, R.I.P. George Martin. Do you want to promote anything?
No, I still.
Do you want to promote your favorite Beatles album?
Well, I like Revolver and Abbey Road.
Just so you know, if you try to put any of their music on the internet, you will be pseudo. So just like if I did that for Metallica. All right. Me and Ted, me and you and Dan and other Dan and Joe, and we did a movie called Blasphemers. It's at blasphemersmovie.com. You can see some of my writing at top10s.net. They kicked me to the curb, not because of what I said, but because I didn't get enough clicks. I didn't even get fired for a good reason.
Are we getting any clicks on our show?
Last time I checked, no, we're not. But in theory, one day we might have some clicks.